Hampshire is defying President Joe Biden. The Granite State announced on Wednesday January 23rd will be the date of its presidential primary after Biden and the Democratic National Committee's plans to give South Carolina the party's first primary contest. This move also sets up the second GOP contest of 2024, 8 days after the Iowa caucuses.
This comes as new polling from Yahoo and YouGov today finds more than half of Democrats said they want to see someone other than President Biden make a bid for the White House next year. The president is also trailing his chief challenger, Donald Trump, ever so slightly, 44% to 42%, though 9% of poll respondents were unsure of who they would vote for. Another 5% said they were not planning to vote at all.
So I can be unsure who you're going to vote for. Well, I won't say that. Not to be unsure. Why would you vote for Joe Biden? This man, his cognitive ability is just gone. And I think it's unfair that the people that are behind him are propping him up and making him speak in public and do all these type of things. Come on, y'all. They need to make this announcement today. This guy is not making any decision. He doesn't even know where he's at most of the time, which is sad to see. It's really, really sad to see.
2% of respondents said Trump's criminal charges were a bigger problem than Biden's age, while 41% said the opposite. 73% of Democrats said the president's age was a problem for them as well.
So we've seen time and time again.
Ooh, okay, so it is interesting to see that there are still a lot of people, as much as we talk about Biden's age, there are quite a few people who are similarly concerned about Donald Trump's indictments.
Yes, and that's not just vibes in the polls. It has been shown, frankly, in these election results. The midterms, as I've said many times on the show, were frankly a disaster for Republicans.
That's alarming to me. We can't have vibes in anything except interpersonal relationships. That's the only thing you need to have vibes in. Vibes does not need to infiltrate any other aspect of our society.
The incumbent party, the Democrats, is typically the incumbent party does bad during that equivalent midterms historically. The inflation was a really big issue. The economy seemed, frankly, in worse shape than it is now.
At least voters definitely feel that way.
They were saying that,
yeah.
Yes. So we were expecting better news in the Senate and even better news in the House, even though Republicans did take back the House. And it was clear that in some of these swing states like Arizona, Georgia, and Pennsylvania, the candidate quality on the Republican side mattered, and that candidate quality was a problem because of Donald Trump's stolen election narrative being exerted on them.
Yeah, and I gotta say, New Hampshire, right off the bat, was furious, not to anthropomorphize a state, but the people of New Hampshire, the representatives of New Hampshire were furious at this DNC.
They demand the right to pick the next president for some reason. This is a special ability Iowa and New Hampshire deserve. They can't be taken away from them. It doesn't make any sense.
Whatever you think about the underlying.
That Iowa, New Hampshire thing is more the establishment type of thing. More and more people are getting away from the establishment. There's things that need to change. And you know who sparked that change? It wasn't the great messiah, Barack Obama. It was not him. It was Donald Trump that started to spark that change, because they're thinking if a guy like Donald Trump, which is not a politician, he is at this point, but when he got elected, he was not a politician. He was not establishment. He was not beholden to corporate donors or anything like that, because he had his own money. He's the one that sparked that change. And then the change continues. And Democrats are scared. So now what they're doing, the Democrats are just cheating and they're redlining and they're indicting him, Donald Trump, and they're putting people in place, and they're using racial idolatry. They're doing all these type of things, as opposed to just put your message out there and win the election. But that's what Donald Trump did. So Why can't y'all do it? Well, we know why.
Merits of it, I think we can all agree that the DNC's choice to do this now was a cynical bid, and framing it as this is about diversity. We want South Carolina to go first because it's a more racially diverse state than New Hampshire seem to be bupkis. They know that South Carolina is a state where Joe Biden has historically done very well, where Jim Clyburn, who is going to throw his backing behind Joe Biden, and something like 60% of all South Carolina voters said that they voted for Joe Biden specifically because Jim Clyburn told them to. So it's a state that the DNC has much more control of over.
It's a favorite state for Biden, and this is totally him trying to stack the deck. That is absolutely true. At the same time, it's also true that it's totally ridiculous and arbitrary that Iowa and New Hampshire have so much power over the nominating process because they get to go first every year, and it doesn't make a lot of sense. And those states are so utterly unrepresentative. And Iowa, in particular, exerts actually a very negative influence. In my view, it depends what your policies are, but it forces, particularly on the Republican side, it forces a lot of deference to farm subsidies as policy that are not policies I support. I don't support any subsidies whatsoever under the sun in any circumstances. So it affects Republican policy a lot in a bad way, in an unhealthy way.
Well, I like this argument that New Hampshire State Secretary Scanlon made. He said that there is a different kind of diversity that you could care about. The fact that it's really easy to get on the ballot in New Hampshire, that there's some economic diversity there. He says it costs $1,000 to register as a presidential candidate in New Hampshire, and that fee can be waived under certain other requirements. So there's an accessibility argument that can be made. I think there's an argument that if you have smaller states go first, if you are a lesser known candidate, then you can glad hand and shake hands and try to make yourself known and get national attention that had been denied to you once you win that state. And I do think we got to say there are a number of people in this race right now challenging Joe Biden that are very much hoping for that to be the case. If you look at New Hampshire polls, Marianne Williamson's been spending a lot of time in the state.
So South Carolina should not go first, especially if you have a black sellout like Jim Clyburn, and he would kind of spearhead the whole thing, and we know in which direction that's gonna go. So no, not South Carolina should go first. I don't believe in the establishment, which is keeping things the same that it has always been. Let's do business like we have always done. In this case, South Carolina should not be first. Let's go New Hampshire, let's go Iowa, and we're gonna roll from there.
So far, a plurality of Democratic voters, 44%, are still undecided in New Hampshire. About 27% plan to write in Joe Biden. 15% plan to vote for Dean Phillips.
Because he's not even on the ballot. He's not even trying.
No, yeah. 15, but he still could win. According to this, 15% plan to vote for Dean Phillips. He's got a lot of money in this. He's one of these multimillionaire billionaires who's self-financing their campaign. And Marianne Williamson's at 10%, 5% say they would vote for somebody else. So that, we might want to see better numbers from the non-Biden candidates in the state, given that he's not even on the ballot. But there's still a whopping 44% of people who are undecided.
Yeah, the problem is that it's hard to design a primary system or pick a state and have it be really fair to everyone.
We could vote all on the same day.
Happen.
What an idea.
Well, sure, but then actually that would not help the smaller candidates, right?
No, it wouldn't.
That's the problem. In some world, I think it might be ideal to do some kind of regional balance, or like you have maybe four states go at the same time at the beginning and spread them out. But again, as you said, for these Marianne Williamson type people who want to concentrate in New Hampshire and then have a win there and catapult that to a bigger, to more prominence, that hurts them too. This is really hard to find it.
It would have really helped the Bernie Sanders style candidate in 2020 if all of the primary states had voted at the same time. Someone like Pete Buttigieg only became a sort of plausible reality because he managed to eke out an arguable win that's still hotly debated in Bernie circles.
They're still counting that one. They're still telling them, what a disaster.
Truly.
That was embarrassing.
And then states like California, which were huge wins for Bernie Sanders, ended up grayed out on the maps for a very long time for some weird technical reason. So when you look at the map.
So we look at the way that we elect people in this country. It is not a perfect system. It's quite flawed, as a matter of fact. But I think, in my opinion, it's the best system in the world. But it is open to corruption. It is so open to corruption. It is so open to corruption. Because if you have the right amount of money, presidents are not voted in. Presidents are selected by the very top few that really run the country. And that's unfortunate. But saying that, I still think it's the best system that we have going. We have to reform this. And I think the biggest thing is that corporate dollars contribute to politics more than anything. More than anything. So I'm thinking, and this is not an original idea from me. I've heard this, and I think it's fair that contribution should be from the public. Whatever official you want to get elected, you contribute to them, to that campaign, or whatever the case may be. In doing that, I think they will be more real with you. And the reason they will be more real with you is because they know they want to run for re-election. And so whatever they run on, they'll get in there. They know that you contributed to them. And then when they get in there, they're going to do everything that you asked them to do to get reelected. That's my 1.34 cents on this topic.